Ladies and gentlemen, let me begin today by asking you a question that may change the way you look at your entire life. Have you ever worked on something really worked, and after weeks, months, maybe even years, looked around and said, where are the results? Where's the payoff? When does the harvest come? I know that feeling. We all do. Because the greatest test life gives us is not difficulty. It's not competition. It's not even failure. No. The greatest test life gives us is silence. The silence of unseen progress. The silence of doing the work with no applause, no recognition, and no sign that anything you're doing is making a difference. But let me assure you of something right now. If you've ever felt that frustration, that discouragement, that long pause between effort and reward, you are in the right place today. Because I want to tell you a little story about a little seed. And if you understand this story, not casually, not intellectually, but deeply, you will never again be fooled by slow progress. You'll never again confuse silence with failure. You'll never again judge your future by what you can see in the present. Now, this story changed my life. It changed the way I think about effort. It changed the way I think about discipline. It changed the way I think about time. And if you let it, it can change the way you approach every goal you set for the next 5 years. It's the story of the Chinese bamboo tree. An ordinary seed with an extraordinary lesson. A lesson about patience, about consistency, about faith, and about the kind of success most people never achieve, not because they can't, but because they give up before the miracle happens. So today, we're going to take a journey underground first where the real work is happening, and then above the ground where the reward finally shows up. We're going to talk about what happens when nothing seems to be happening. We're going to talk about how to keep going when everyone around you is telling you to stop. And we're going to talk about the next 5 years of your life, the ones you can't see yet, but the ones you're building right now, today, with every small discipline you practice. Because here's the promise I want to make to you at the beginning of this lesson. If you understand the bamboo, you will understand success. If you understand what's happening beneath the surface, you'll never again worry about how long it's taking for the sprout to appear. And if you understand the power of small, steady effort, you'll know exactly how to create a future that looks completely different from your present. Let's get started. Let me tell you the story now, just as it was told to me, because it carries a lesson so powerful that once you understand it, you'll start to look at every habit, every discipline, every effort in your life very differently. A farmer plants a bamboo seed. Nothing remarkable, just a small seed in the ground. You could hold it between your fingers and barely feel its weight. But here's where the story gets interesting. The farmer waters it, he fertilizes it, he tends to the soil, he does everything he's supposed to do, and after the first year, he comes back to check for progress. And what does he find? Nothing. Not a sprout, not a leaf, not a crooked little stem, nothing breaking through the soil to give him even a hint that his effort mattered. Now let me ask you, what would most people do after 1 year of nothing? Many would already be shaking their heads, saying, maybe I planted it wrong. Maybe the seed was bad. Maybe this just isn't for me. You know people like that. Some of us have been people like that. But the farmer doesn't quit. Not yet. Year 2 comes around. He waters, he fertilizes, he weeds, he protects the soil day after day, week after week, season after season, and he comes back at the end of year 2. And again, nothing. Now this is the moment when the neighbors start talking. You're wasting your time, they say. Nobody in their right mind would keep pouring water into empty dirt. And maybe they're right. Maybe by normal standards it is foolish to work without seeing results. But here's the key. Success does not operate by normal standards. Success demands more belief than that. And the farmer continues. Year 3 arrives. Same routine. Water, fertilizer, care, consistency. 3 years of faithful effort. And the farmer walks out to the field, and still not one visible sign of progress. Not an inch of growth. Not a shadow of hope. Just empty soil. Now, year 3 is where most people's dreams go to die. Not because the dream is impossible, but because the results are invisible. Most people think silence means failure. They think slow means dead. They think unseen means pointless. But the farmer, he stays the course. Year 4. Imagine it. 4 years of doing the right things. 4 years of following the disciplines. 4 years of showing up when there's no applause, no reward, no proof. And at the end of year 4, after thousands of gallons of water, hundreds of days of care, after 4 years of labor, still nothing. At this point, the whole world would say he's stubborn, unrealistic, maybe even a little crazy. But the farmer knows something the neighbors don't know. Something most people never understand. The magic of growth happens long before the miracle of growth. Remember this line, because it may save your future. Just because you can't see progress doesn't mean progress isn't being made. And that's the bamboo lesson. 4 years of nothing, but something extraordinary is happening beneath the soil. Something powerful, something essential. Roots deep, wide, strong, interconnected are forming. The soil is preparing. The foundation is being built. Because if a thing is going to grow 90 feet tall, it must first grow 90 feet deep. The tragedy is that most people quit in year 1, 2, 3, or 4, never realizing they were only watering the roots of their own breakthrough. Now here's where the story reaches its miracle moment. After 4 long years of nothing but faith, consistency, and quiet labor, the 5th year arrives. And something extraordinary happens. Something that shocks the neighbors, inspires the farmer, and teaches us one of the greatest lessons life has to offer. In the 5th year, that bamboo tree breaks through the soil finally and begins to grow. But not an inch a week, not a foot a month. No. That bamboo shoots up 90 feet in just 6 weeks. Imagine that. 4 years of silence. 6 weeks of explosion. Now let me ask you the question every person must answer if they're ever going to understand success. Did the bamboo grow 90 feet in 6 weeks? Or did it grow 90 feet in 5 years? The answer's obvious. It grew 90 feet in 5 years. The 6 weeks were only the evidence of the growth, not the growth itself. Most people misunderstand this. They see someone succeed, suddenly a new business takes off, a career skyrockets, a talent finally gets recognized, and they say, wow, overnight success. But let me tell you, there is no such thing as overnight success. What you see in the spotlight is only the final 6 weeks. What you don't see is the 5 years of watering, working, waiting, doubting, learning, fighting, believing, and trying again. Success is never sudden. Only the appearance of success is sudden. Some people start a new habit, and after 10 days they say, nothing is changing. They start saving money for 3 months and say, the account isn't growing fast enough. They go to the gym for 6 weeks and wonder why their body hasn't transformed. They read for a month and ask why they're not wiser yet. That's the mistake. They think progress works like a microwave, quick, convenient, visible, but life operates more like a crock pot, slow, steady, deep, and only noticeable after you've been patient long enough. Let me give you a principle that changed my life forever. You don't get to choose when the fruit appears. You only get to choose when you plant and when you water. The bamboo tree teaches that. It teaches that your job is not to rush the miracle. Your job is to build the roots. And the stronger the roots, the higher the tree can grow. Let me share another principle. If your life is going to change dramatically in the future, it will be because you quietly and consistently did the work when there was no evidence that anything was happening. This is the difference between people who succeed and people who almost succeed. One group keeps watering, the other group gets discouraged and walks away. And here's the part I want you to remember more than anything else in this section. When your moment comes, when your bamboo breaks the surface, it won't just grow a little, it won't grow gradually, it will grow exponentially. Your results won't add, they'll multiply. But you only get that multiplication if you endure the years of non-multiplying effort. Think of your skills, think of your relationships, think of your finances, think of your health, think of any area of life that matters. They all operate on the bamboo timetable. The roots come before the fruits, and when the fruits come, they come fast, they come strong, and they come because you earned them. That's the miracle of the 5th year. And that's the miracle waiting for anyone who refuses to quit in years 1 through 4. Now that we've seen the miracle of the bamboo, the great explosion of growth that shows up after years of silence, let's talk about the part most people never see, never appreciate, and never stay long enough to benefit from The roots. Because the bamboo doesn't grow tall first, it grows deep first. And life works exactly the same way. You see, ladies and gentlemen, every discipline you practice, every small act, every repeated effort, every tiny choice is building depth, not height, not results, not visible success, depth. And depth is what makes everything else possible. You read a book tonight, just 10 pages, and someone says, "What did that do?" Nothing, at least nothing you can see. You take a walk this morning, 20 minutes, and someone says, "Did you lose weight?" Of course not. Not today. You save $10, and your bank account doesn't look any different. You tell your spouse, "I love you," and the marriage doesn't instantly transform. You choose the apple instead of the cola, and the mirror doesn't say thank you. And so people shrug, they laugh, they dismiss the importance of these small acts. Why? Because the roots aren't visible. But my friend, that's the secret. The roots are where the real transformation begins. Let me give you a sentence that will carry you through every season of your life. The disciplines that look insignificant today become the strengths that look extraordinary tomorrow. But it only works if you understand the order. First roots, then fruits. First discipline, then reward. First consistency, then success. Let's take personal growth as an example. You sit down with a book. Maybe you read about leadership, or money, or communication, or human psychology. And after an hour of reading, you don't feel smarter. You don't feel richer. Your job hasn't changed. Your circumstances haven't changed. But you have changed quietly, subtly, beneath the surface. Ideas are forming. Perspectives are shifting. A new way of thinking begins to take root. That's the beginning of wisdom. And wisdom, my friends, always starts underground. Your health works the same way. You don't get healthy by doing something dramatic once. You get healthy by doing something small daily. You strengthen the roots, the habits, long before the visible evidence shows up in your body. Your finances? Same story. Wealth is not an income problem, it's a discipline problem. Saving, investing, managing, these are root habits. And for the first year, maybe two, those roots don't seem to produce much fruit. But one day, the compounding begins. One day, the curve bends upward. And everyone says, "You're so lucky." No, you're not lucky. You're rooted. Your relationships? Same principle. Connections don't fall apart overnight. They fall apart after months and years of small neglect. And they don't thrive overnight either. They thrive after months and years of small moments of care. Let me give you a contrast. On one side of the ledger, a few simple disciplines practiced every day. That creates roots. On the other side, a few errors in judgment repeated every day. That also creates roots, but roots of decay. Eat the cola instead of the apple, nothing happens today. But keep repeating that choice consistently, and the roots of poor health grow deeper. Spend everything you make, nothing happens tonight. But do it for a year or 5 years, and suddenly you're trapped by the roots you've grown. Ignore your spouse, avoid meaningful conversations, skip the small gestures. Nothing breaks today, but return in 5 years and see what has happened to the soil of that relationship. Roots come in two varieties, roots of foundation or roots of destruction. And here's the part most people never consider. Both sets of roots grow quietly. Both grow invisibly. Both grow because of daily choices, not dramatic ones. Let me say it plainly. Your life is shaped underground long before it shows up above the ground. The real question is not, what are you achieving? The real question is, what are you becoming? Because what you become determines what you attract. So the secret of the root principle is simple but profound. Every discipline builds depth before it builds height. Every effort strengthens the foundation before it strengthens the outcome. And every choice you make today is feeding roots that will produce fruits, good or bad, in the future. Now that we've talked about the roots, let's talk about time. Because roots need time. And time, handled correctly, becomes the greatest friend of anyone committed to small daily disciplines. Now, let's talk about one of the most important principles in personal development, a principle so powerful that once you grasp it, you'll stop judging your life by days and start shaping it by years. I call it the 5-year rule. And here's what it says. Who you become is not a single decision, it's a timeline. Most people, when they set a goal, expect results in 10 days or 10 weeks. Successful people think in 5-year blocks. They understand something the average person never learns. Transformation doesn't happen in the moment of intention. It happens in the accumulation of small actions over time. Let me put it this way. Your life today is the result of the last 5 years of your habits. And your life 5 years from now will be the result of the habits you start or fail to start right now. That's why I say your future is a timeline, not a wish, not a hope, a timeline. And timelines unfold whether you're prepared for them or not. Now, let's break this down together. You start walking for 30 minutes a day. For the first week, nothing changes. The second week, still no big difference. By the third week, you feel a little better, maybe. But look in the mirror, same person. Step on the scale, same number. And so the average person says, what's the point? This isn't working. But here's the key. The first few weeks are not about results. They're about identity. You're becoming the kind of person who cares for their health. You're building the roots of discipline. You're establishing a pattern your future self can trust. And identity always comes before transformation. Now take finances. You save $10 a week. Doesn't change your life. Doesn't change your bank account. Doesn't impress anybody. You do it for 3 months. Still no dramatic shift. A year may be a small cushion, but nothing that feels life-changing. But here's the principle. Wealth doesn't respond to intensity. Wealth responds to consistency. Consistency over years, not months. And discipline over time, not convenience in moments. Now think about relationships. You spend quality time with your spouse or your children, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, a nightly conversation, no fireworks, no sudden transformation, but try that for 5 years. Just 5 years. You'll have a relationship other people dream about, not because you did something dramatic, but because you did something consistent. Or let's apply the 5-year timeline to personal growth. You read 10 pages a day. Nothing magical happens on day 1, or day 20, or even day 100, but read 10 pages a day for 5 years. That's roughly 200 books. And I'll tell you something, you can't read 200 books and be the same person. Impossible. Your thinking changes. Your vocabulary changes. Your opportunities change. Your decisions change. And when your decisions change, your life changes. Success is never in the event. Success is in the accumulated effect of countless small, invisible, faithful disciplines practiced over time. But here's the painful part and the liberating part. 5 years of neglect works the same way. 5 years of poor choices. 5 years of procrastination. 5 years of excuses. 5 years of drifting. 5 years of shrugging off the small errors in judgment. And the result of that 5-year timeline is just as predictable. Every decision plants a seed. Every seed becomes a root. Every root produces a fruit. And every fruit becomes a result you cannot escape for better or for worse. So the real question, the question that shapes your next 5 years is not, what do I want to achieve? No. The real question is, what am I willing to do every day that will shape who I become? Because who you become is determined long before the results show up. Let me tell you something you can take to the bank. Nothing meaningful changes in 30 days, but everything can change in 5 years. Your health can transform. Your finances can transform. Your relationships can transform. Your mind, your confidence, your opportunities, your entire life can transform. 5 years is enough time to become unrecognizable in the best possible way. And the only thing standing between you and that version of yourself is whether or not you begin the disciplines that build the roots of your future. So as we move forward, remember, you don't need to rush. You don't need perfection. You don't need gigantic leaps. You need small disciplines done consistently over time, because time multiplies whatever you feed it. And the next 5 years will pass anyway. The only question is, what will you have to show for them? Now that we've established the 5-year rule, let's answer one of the most common questions people ask me. They say, Jim, how do I know if I'm on the right path? If the results take so long to show up, how can I be sure that what I'm doing is working? And that, my friends, is one of the most important questions you can ever ask. Because if you depend on results for encouragement, you're going to quit long before you deserve the victory. If you wait for evidence to motivate you, you'll walk away from the bamboo in year 2 or year 3 or year 4, just inches before the breakthrough. So let me give you the principle that changed everything for me. You cannot measure success by evidence in the early years. You must measure success by effort. Let me say it again, because this one can save your dreams. When you can't measure outcomes, you must measure actions. See, most people are trying to measure the sprout. They want the visible sign, the obvious progress, the proof that everything is moving forward. But progress is sneaky, growth is quiet, and development is invisible long before it becomes undeniable. So what should you measure? You measure the watering. You measure the discipline. You measure the seeds being planted. You measure the choice you made today, not the result you got today. Let me tell you something I learned early in my career. I started keeping a journal, not a journal of achievements that came later. No, I kept a journal of effort, a journal of disciplines, a journal of the actions I knew would eventually produce the results I wanted. Every day I would open that journal and ask myself simple questions. Did I read today? Did I walk? Did I plan? Did I write? Did I save? Did I practice? Did I keep the promise I made to my future self? And if the answer was yes, I wrote it down. If the answer was no, I wrote it down. And you know what that journal became? A map, a mirror, a mentor. On the days when I doubted myself, and believe me, we all have those days, I could look back and see that I had been watering the bamboo. Even if I couldn't see the sprout, the roots were growing stronger. Let me give you a perspective shift that separates the successful from the unsuccessful. The unsuccessful look at results. The successful look at patterns. Unsuccessful people say, nothing's changed, so it must not be working. Successful people say, I've done the work, so something must be happening beneath the surface. Unsuccessful people check the scoreboard. Successful people check the routine. Unsuccessful people wait for proof. Successful people create proof through consistent action. Your job is not to predict when the bamboo will appear. Your job is not to judge the soil. Your job is not to doubt the seed. Your job is one thing: water it every day. Water it. And here's the beautiful thing. When you measure effort instead of evidence, you stop fighting discouragement. Because discouragement comes from expecting results too early. But confidence comes from honoring the disciplines that guarantee results eventually. Let me show you the difference. If you judge your progress by what you see, you'll get frustrated. If you judge your progress by what you did, you'll get encouraged. And encouraged people stay consistent long enough to win. So the next time you wonder if you're on the right path, don't ask, is the sprout visible? Ask, did I water the bamboo today? Because growth is not determined by what shows. Growth is determined by what you do. And when the bamboo finally breaks through the surface, all those days of invisible effort will reveal their true value. But only if you stay long enough. Now that we've talked about effort, let's move to something even more practical, how to build your own root system. Because it's one thing to understand the bamboo, it's another thing to live like the bamboo. And that requires something more than good intentions. It requires a structure, a rhythm, a set of simple disciplines that shape your days, your weeks, and ultimately your years. Let me tell you a truth that's almost too simple for most people to believe. Your future is hidden in your daily routine, not your dreams, not your wishes, not your goals pinned to a board. Your routine, your habits, your rhythms, your practices, your daily disciplines. So let's talk about how to structure your life the way a wise farmer tends to his soil carefully, intentionally, and consistently. 7.1 daily disciplines, the roots of character. I like to say the daily disciplines are the roots of your identity. They are small, yes, easy to do, easy not to do, but they shape who you become. Let me give you a few daily practices that can change your entire future. First, read 10-30 minutes a day. That's all you need. You say, Jim, will 10 minutes make me wise? Not today. But 5 years of 10 minutes a day will make you one of the wisest people in your circle. Roots first, fruit later. Second, Move your body. A walk, stretching, simple movement. Not to look good, to feel alive. Health begins in the mind, but it's carried in the body. Third, fuel yourself intentionally. Eat something that serves you, not punishes you later. One good choice a day creates a new relationship with discipline. Fourth, plan your day. 5 minutes. That's all. Sit quietly and ask, what must be done today? The act of planning turns chaos into clarity. Fifth, connect with someone you love. A message, a call, a moment of presence. Relationships are built in tiny daily deposits. Sixth, take one step toward a long-term goal. Just one. Send the email. Write the paragraph. Save the $10. One step a day becomes 365 steps a year, and that's a distance most people never travel. These daily disciplines don't make your life easier. They make you better. 7.2 weekly disciplines, the roots of direction. Daily disciplines build character. Weekly disciplines build direction. Once a week, sit down and take inventory of your life. Let me give you 5 weekly practices worth adopting. First, manage your money intentionally. Track it, respect it, direct it. Don't let your money leave your life without purpose. Second, do deep learning. This is not casual reading. This is focused study. 1 hour a week studying a skill, a trade, a field. That's how mastery begins. Third, develop a skill deliberately. Not everything in life should be done casually. Skills grow through commitment, not convenience. Fourth, review your habits. Look at what's working and what isn't. Ask, which habit is moving me forward and which is pulling me backward? Fifth, shape your environment. Your environment influences you more than your willpower ever will. Clean the desk. Organize your tools. Create a space that supports the life you want. Weekly disciplines are like trimming branches, keeping your direction clear and your path uncluttered. 7.3 monthly disciplines, the roots of transformation. Monthly disciplines are where you lift your eyes from the ground and look at the horizon. They create perspective. They show you the bigger picture of your growth. Every month, practice these transformational disciplines. First, review your inputs. What are you consuming? Books? Social media? Conversations? Input determines insight, and insight determines action. Second, measure your progress, not emotionally, objectively. How's your health, your finances, your relationships, your mindset? Measurement creates awareness, and awareness creates change. Third, evaluate your relationships. Are you surrounded by anchors or engines? By critics or encouragers? By people who drain you or people who challenge you? Fourth, make small course corrections. You don't need dramatic adjustments. Small changes made consistently produce massive results over time. Fifth, celebrate the growth. Not the outcome, the growth. Let me tell you something important. If you wait for big wins to feel proud, you'll spend most of your life discouraged. Celebrate the roots long before they produce the fruits. 7.4, the principle of accumulation. Here's the secret behind these disciplines, something I wish every young person could understand early. Discipline compounds. Neglect compounds. Life compounds. Small disciplines repeated daily accumulate into massive transformation. Small errors repeated daily accumulate into massive regret. And the difference between the two is subtle at first, almost invisible. But give them both 5 years and you'll see 2 lives on 2 entirely different paths. One life built on quiet effort. The other built on quiet neglect. 7.5, the real challenge, monotony. Let me give you the hardest truth about discipline. The challenge is not difficulty, the challenge is monotony. It's easy to start, exciting to begin, inspiring to dream, but it's hard to keep showing up when nothing seems new, nothing seems rewarding, nothing seems urgent. But remember, monotony builds mastery. Monotony builds roots. And roots produce the fruits that everyone else calls luck. So the real test isn't whether you can do something impressive once. The real test is whether you can do something ordinary consistently. Because ordinary disciplines practiced daily create extraordinary results eventually. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we've talked about disciplines. We've talked about roots. We've talked about the quiet years, the years when nothing seems to be happening. And that brings us to one of the most important parts of this entire journey, the quitting point. Every dream has a quitting point. Every habit has a quitting point. Every transformation has a quitting point. And most people, not because they're weak, not because they're incapable, but because they're human, quit right before the miracle. Let me tell you why. 8.1, the danger zone. The middle years. The beginning is easy. The beginning is exciting. The beginning is inspiring. You start a new routine, the first week feels good. You start saving money, the first month feels responsible. You start reading the first few books, feel motivating. You start exercising the first workouts, feel empowering. That's the honeymoon phase. Then comes the middle, weeks 4 through 6, months 3 through 6, years 2 and 3 of a long-term goal. This is where the excitement fades and monotony settles in. This is where the results are still invisible. And this is where doubt becomes louder than discipline. Most people don't quit in the beginning. They quit in the middle. The middle is where your emotions lie to you. The middle is where impatience whispers, it's taking too long. The middle is where discouragement says, maybe this isn't worth it. The middle is where comparison makes you believe others have it easier. And the middle is where the majority of dreams get abandoned. 8.2, why people quit before acceleration. Let me tell you the truth that hurts and heals. People don't quit because they can't succeed. They quit because they can't tolerate the silence before success. They quit because the bamboo has not yet appeared. They quit because the roots aren't visible. They quit because they mistake delayed gratification for no gratification. They quit because they judge the process too early. Let me put it this way. The darkest part of the night is right before dawn, and the hardest part of the journey is right before acceleration. Most people quit in year 4 when year 5 is right around the corner. They quit 3 feet from the gold. They quit inches from the sprout. They quit when the next repetition, the next day, the next choice could have changed everything. 8.3, the emotional trap. If I can't see progress, there is no progress. One of the greatest traps we fall into is believing that progress must be visible to be real. Let me give you the truth. Progress is almost always invisible at first. Your mind grows before your income grows. Your strength builds before your body changes. Your discipline forms before your results show. Your roots deepen before your branches appear. So when you tell yourself it's not working, what you really mean is, I can't see it working. And those two things are not the same. 8.4, what's really happening under the surface? Under the surface, the roots are thickening. Your identity is forming. Your skill is sharpening. Your character is strengthening. Your habits are solidifying. Your future is aligning. Every small act repeated consistently creates an invisible shift. And invisible shifts become visible breakthroughs. Just like the bamboo, the foundation is being built before the growth is revealed. And the irony? The progress you can't see is the progress that matters most. 8.5, how to endure the silent period. Now, let me give you the secrets to pushing past the silent years, the years when everything in you wants to give up. 1, don't measure outcomes. Outcomes come late. Measure your efforts. Effort is always available, always controllable, always clear. 2, don't compare your timeline. Someone else's bamboo might sprout faster. Good for them. Your job is your soil, your seed, your water. And 3, don't break the chain. 1 day missed is human. 2 days missed is a warning. 3 days missed is a new habit, the wrong one. 4, don't uproot the seed. Every time you start over, you lose valuable growth time. Stick with the seed you plant. 5, don't abandon the routine. Your routine is the root system. Even when it feels small, it's building strength beneath the surface. 8.6, the breakthrough pattern. There's a pattern to every breakthrough. It goes like this. You struggle. You doubt. You continue. something shifts. Your life expands. That pattern never changes. If you stay, you'll grow. If you quit, you'll repeat. Most people repeat, champions stay. 8.7, Jim Rohn's conclusion for this section. Let me wrap up this section with a principle that has guided me my entire life. If you stay long enough, you get the miracle. But you have to stay long enough, not just start, not just try, not just dream. Stay, because most people walk away in the 4th year, never knowing the 5th year was already preparing the miracle. The bamboo doesn't reward talent. The bamboo rewards endurance. And so does life. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of our lesson. We've walked together through the story of the bamboo. We've talked about roots and discipline and time. We've talked about the silent years, the years when nothing seems to be happening, and the extraordinary breakthrough that comes only to the few who refuse to quit. Now let me leave you with the part that matters most. Your life works exactly the same way. You are the farmer. Your habits are the seeds. Your daily disciplines are the water. Your effort is the fertilizer. And your future, your breakthrough, your 90-foot miracle is the bamboo waiting beneath the soil. So the real question isn't whether the bamboo works. It does. The real question is whether you will work the bamboo, whether you will stay long enough, whether you will keep watering, whether you will trust the process even when the results are invisible. Let me ask you something personal. What seed have you planted that you've been tempted to abandon? Is it your health, your finances, your education, your relationship, your business, your discipline, your calling? Whatever it is, I want you to remember this. The silence doesn't mean nothing is happening. The silence means everything is happening where you cannot see. The roots are forming. Your character is developing. Your future is preparing. And the breakthrough, the one you've been waiting for, is already on its way. But you must not stop watering. Let me tell you something that's both simple and profound. You don't need to change your whole life tonight. You just need to change tonight. One decision, one discipline, one small commitment. That's all it takes to begin a new 5-year journey. You say, Jim, 5 years is a long time. Yes and no. 5 years will pass no matter what. The only difference is what you'll have to show for them when they do. 5 years from now, you can be healthier or the same, richer or the same, wiser or the same, more skilled or the same, more fulfilled or the same. And the difference won't be made by huge leaps, but by small steps, small disciplines, small acts of consistency, small roots that grow into extraordinary results. So here's my final challenge to you. Pick one discipline, one seed, and water it for the next 30 days. Not 30 years, 30 days. Because once the roots begin to grow, once you start to feel that shift inside you, once you realize the miracle is already underway, you'll never want to quit again. And here's my final promise. If you water your seed daily, quietly, faithfully, your 5th year will come. And when it comes, you won't just grow, you'll rise. You won't just progress, you'll accelerate. You won't just change, you'll transform. And people will say, you're so lucky. And you will smile. Because you'll know the truth. Luck is what shows above the ground. Discipline is what grows beneath the ground. Your bamboo is waiting. Your roots are ready. Your future is being written starting tonight. Thank you. Now go water the seed.